So tonight we're going to be listening to John Wheeler. The book is Right Here, Right Now. And these are conversations that John has with people who correspond with him, mostly through letters and writing. And just one note, you know that he describes our essential nature as this odd juxtaposition of two words, presence-awareness. It's not a phrase we typically hear, and every time I read it, I want to say it as present awareness, but it's not. It's presence-awareness. So just to clarify that. So the questioner says to him, I have been both fascinated and perplexed by non-duality for over a year now. I have tried to do the crucial self-analysis of finding out who I am and where I exist. I realize that I am not my thoughts, since I am still aware even when I have no thoughts. But I cannot say that I am not my body, because my body is always here. It never disappears. Apparently, the conclusion I should have reached was that I am not the thoughts, I am not the body. Therefore, I am underlying awareness. But I cannot arrive at this conclusion. What am I doing wrong? I hope you can help me. John says, just keep it simple. Stop right now and notice the fact of your presence, which exists and is aware right now. Is there any difficulty in recognizing that fact? This is what you are. It is clear and present at all times and can never be doubted. Seeing this is not a conclusion of the mind. There is no need for a conclusion. The recognition of the fact of presence awareness is not done through the mind or the senses. When you ask yourself if you exist and if you are aware, the answer that comes is not a product of chain of reasoning, but a direct, non-conceptual recognition. This is why they say, quote, non-conceptual awareness, close quote. You cannot use the mind to recognize what is being pointed out, yet it is easy to see once you catch the pointer. The simplicity is the key. You are present and aware. This is what you are. Everything else simply arises and sets in this presence, which is ever present and clear as that knowingness that knows and therefore transcends all appearances. This is it in a nutshell. Questioner, I go through periods of feeling deep stillness and peace, and then I am straight back into strong thoughts and feelings about my life situation, all the bad things that have happened in my life, and all the people who have wronged me. Do these strong thoughts and feelings slowly subside as one rests more and more in awareness? It's a bit of a roller coaster ride. Yes, the focus on thoughts subsides. Continue to notice the fact of being or presence awareness, whatever you want to call it. Thoughts come and go, but you remain clear, present, and solid as a rock. We pay attention to thoughts because we think they say something about who we are, but they do not. We have been looking in the wrong direction. Once this confusion is cleared up, the focus returns to what we really are. Is it really true that there is nothing I can do to awaken because there is no I there? If this is so, then is the process of awakening simply your awareness triggering a resonance in my awareness? I feel as if I am running around like a headless chicken, seeking that which I can never find. No, I don't agree that there is nothing you can do. Just investigate what you are. Have a look to verify the pointers. If there is nothing you can do, there is no use talking about this. The investigation does reveal that what we took ourselves to be is not true. It also clarifies what we are. In the light of clear seeing, the separate doer is seen to be false. But you need to look and see this for yourself. It sounds like a paradox, but it is really not. Just clear up the doubts and come back to a recognition of what is true. Nothing is really changed, but the confusion is removed. Now, another guy writes to him and starts off quoting something that John wrote in a book. So the quote goes like this: your nature as that natural clarity of presence awareness does not conform to any of the concepts that the mind asserts is what you are. No mind-created labels apply to awareness. Awareness is not an object. It has no phenomenal characteristics. You are awareness. How can the spacious, clear, no thingness of presence awareness have any mind-created labels and attributes? Is the clear sky of awareness, which is what you are, good or bad, enlightened or unenlightened, high or low? Close quote. And then the man says, I see that this is the essential point that I have glossed over. The presence awareness, seeing I am that and nothing else, is not clear. Mm-hmm. It is not stable and absolute, not in any real way. I sometimes despair that this will never be more than a concept. Asserting that I am that seems to lead to moments of clarity, but I flop right back into conceptual knowing pretty clearly. Again, I get clarity, but it goes away, and concepts are really all I have. But it's a concept and not a living, thriving reality, as I have heard you describe it. I understand awareness has no attributes, but I do not see that. I much appreciate your help. John says, it's not a matter of seeing it or not. You do not see it or get it because you are it. Can you deny the presence of awareness right now and in any moment? Everything that appears is just a movement in, on, and through that presence awareness. Recognize that without being awareness, nothing can be. It's the baseline, the absolute ultimate backstop that is actually going on and is clearly present and evident upon a bit of looking at any moment. It cannot be grasped, understood, attained, or achieved, because all of those things are just conceptual movements that are floating in the very presence they are trying to grasp. All the seeking, getting, understanding, and attaining are purely illusory concepts based on the idea that what you are seeking is not present. Those ideas are never fulfilled because they are based on a misunderstanding. Waiting for enlightenment is a fool's game because it will never happen. At this point, You do not need to see, get, know, understand, realize, or find who you are. Awareness, presence is here. It is clear. And can you say that you are something apart from that? Is awareness one thing and you another? Everything that appears is just a display on that awareness, is just a movement or eruption arising within that. Nothing can be apart from that awareness. Show me anything with any substantial nature standing apart from its appearance in awareness. Looking for awareness or trying to see it is like painting a rose, utterly redundant. It will tie the mind up in knots. That which is looking is the awareness itself. How can you look at or know anything without your own presence and awareness? Despite what the mind may believe, that awareness, you, is inherently unbound, unburdened, clear, and free of problems. All problems, questions, and doubts are basically thoughts. But awareness is innately free of thoughts and is ever untouched in its essence, just as the sky is not soiled by smoke, clouds, fog, leaves, or anything else passing through it. All that you are dealing with now is false concepts that must be questioned and dismantled. See that when the focus goes on to the stories, labels, and identifications in thoughts, the natural simplicity of awareness is traded for false thoughts. The belief and reality is placed into thought, and the mind scares itself out of its wits by taking its own imaginings as gospel truth. That's all that is happening. As far as I'm concerned, this needs to be seen. Otherwise, we continue to fall for every sucker punch the mind throws at us. This is all we are dealing with at this point, getting fundamentally clear on our relationship with the mind and its thoughts, especially self-centered thoughts. Waiting for seeing or enlightenment is a delaying tactic because it postpones the disidentification with or questioning of thought. The mind gets wrapped up in all the spiritual jargon and glorious anticipated experiences, yet the mechanism of suffering sails in under the radar and stays completely unexamined. This was my experience, which Bob Adamson finally exposed very clearly and beautifully to me. See all suffering, doubts, questions, problems, issues, imagined attainments, and losses as movements in the mind. They are all thought generated. Apart from thoughts, those things have no existence whatsoever. You have to nail this insight completely. Do not move from this until it is absolutely clear. There is nothing wrong with the body, mind, world, or other people at any time. Fighting with those things is completely futile. All problems are the mind's labels, judgments, and interpretations. We must see that all problems are sustained and created by the mind, which is fabricating them. That's one aspect. Believing the thoughts to be true is where the real bondage arises. Because if you do not believe them, they have no power. But first, you need to clearly see what you're dealing with. Thoughts, pure and simple. At this point, I'm more interested in you completely nailing the roots, origin, and resolution of suffering, rather than focusing on some imagined state of enlightenment or getting something. Once you understand the mechanism of suffering as clearly as the back of your hand, you'll come to see that the pursuit of an awakening or enlightenment is just another self-centered thought, which generates its own suffering and doubt. But if you don't see the basics of suffering, you'll not be able to see this. And the ongoing suffering will propel you to seeking imagined antidotes like enlightenment. However, as we start to see, those things never happen and never have worked.
Mm. Wow. Yeah.
So as you can see, John's style is to be very direct and forthcoming. I'll read one more section here, maybe. So the questioner says, you sometimes mention a sense of beingness or presence. John says, yes. What sense of presence? The sense of being, the sense of knowing that you are. If I ask, do you exist? You spontaneously answer yes. This is because you are undoubtedly present and aware. Questioner, I thought any sense of something would be an appearance. I don't notice any sense of presence because your being is not an object. It does not stand out in front of you as something apart. So you cannot sense it or know it with the senses or mind. Nonetheless, you cannot deny your existence or being at any time. I still cannot answer the question, are you aware? Because the word you seems vague. How accurate with your words are you trying to be with that question? John, ultimately words fail because they are only symbols or pointers. They are not the thing in themselves. So you need to look beyond the word to where it is pointing. Questioner, I am sure a child would indeed answer that question quickly. But a child would also say that the sky is blue. I can answer that there is awareness. Is that good enough? And where would I go from there? That's a good start. There is awareness. That is clear and undeniable. Awareness is the necessary support for any and all possible experiences. Without awareness, what can there be? Questioner, awareness is definitely here, but why am I that awareness? There is direct proof that I am not the body, mind, and so on. But for the positive recognition, how do I know I am that? I don't just want to have a belief that I am awareness. What matters is the direct knowledge of it, right? John, the mind is, in the end, completely useless for the non-conceptual recognition of awareness and your identity as that. You are realizing that the mind is fine for dealing with objects and appearances, but for dealing with awareness, it's not a sufficient tool. Simply put, awareness is not an object. It can't be grasped, known, or understood by the mind. That is why looking for proofs at the mind level about awareness and your identity as that are destined to fail. You are stating something clear and correct when you say that awareness is definitely here. This is undeniable and an irrefutable fact of experience. You're also clear in saying that you are not the body and the mind. At this point, it appears that you are concerned with being certain that this presence of awareness is, in fact, what you are. Here are a few pointers to consider in this regard. You never, under any circumstances, observe awareness as an object apart from you. Body, senses, and mind appear as objects known. They arise and set and can be clearly observed as passing appearances before us. But you cannot say this of awareness, because you and awareness are never observed apart from each other. You and awareness must be the same thing. That is, what you are and what an awareness is are synonymous. The words are two, but what they point to is one. You have seen that you are nothing objective, body, senses, or mind. Awareness also is nothing objective. Something that is non-objective has no characteristics by which it could be distinguished from another non-objective thing. In fact, how could there even be two non-objective things, as there is nothing by which they could be differentiated? This also points to the fact that your nature as awareness are one and the same thing. Everyone instinctively says, I exist, I'm aware. This is a self-evident fact that needs no proof or verification. You say that you are certain that there is awareness, but unclear as to the identity of the I as that. This is a clear intuition because it exposes the fact that the seeming separate I does not really exist, except as a notion or idea appearing in the awareness. You are coming upon the key insight that there is no separate self existing independently from awareness. This seeming arising of some separate I or self apart from awareness has never happened. All there is awareness. There is no separate individual who stands apart from that. So the assumed separate I is not, and awareness is present beyond any doubt. This can only mean that they do not exist as separate individuals, but as the principle of pure awareness itself, which shines beyond all thought and concepts, including I, you, and any other that the mind can generate. To sum up, the principle of awareness is an undeniable fact. You do not exist as any kind of separate self apart from that, because you cannot observe that any such separation has occurred. The seeming separate I is a fiction because it is never observed. The individual I is absent. When looked for, all that is found is awareness. However, that awareness is not a metaphysical principle shining out there as some intangible presence. It shines in the core of each living being as its fundamental identity. That is why various pointers are used, such as the self with a capital S, your real nature, and so on. the great non-dualistic traditions say that, quote, all there is being awareness, and you are that, close quote. This points to the fundamental unity of our essential self and the principle of being awareness that is the substratum of the apparent cosmos. At a practical level, this boils down to the recognition that the principle of awareness is what is finally real. We come to recognize that this is available and present within us and is ultimately what we truly are. This awareness is timeless, unchanging, free, and peaceful by nature. The non-conceptual knowing of the principle of awareness and our identity as that uproots all belief in separation and undercuts all the self-centered suffering and doubts predicated on that belief. It is the realization of non-duality or oneness. All seeking, doubts, and suffering are conclusively resolved.
Great. Ooh.
Paul, what was that last chapter? What was the chapter number you were reading?
Yeah. This is chapter 90. Why am I awareness?
And what was the chapter before that?
The chapter before that is chapter 61. False concepts must be questioned.
So there is no me separate and apart from awareness.
Yeah, I just wanted to find something else, see if I can do that.
But we act and live as if there is a me separate and apart from awareness and from anything else.
Yeah.
And he's saying that's not even possible because fundamentally you are never not aware.
Yeah, and he just said, I just want to read this. The basics are clear for you. And these are the two basic principles that he said are the absolutely essential building blocks of your insight. One, the undeniable presence of awareness that you are. You have to just absolutely own that. And two, the non-existence of any substantial entity in the picture that you can grasp and hold on to and call myself. These are the core insights.
Right.
And of course, through inadvertence, we're all addicted to the belief in the thoughts.
Well,
We believe the thought that are of a separate entity.
Yeah.
we believe we are the thoughts.
Yeah.
So thoughts appear and perceptions appear.
Yeah. And he says, that our attention is completely in the wrong direction. And that's what moment by moment awareness needs to work on, that we habitually focus on the thoughts and the stories and the labels rather than the background awareness that's responsible for them.
Well, we give attention
Yeah,
to.
that's it. And he's saying, switch the attention, put the attention on the background awareness and just see that the arising as momentary passings. We've got it reversed. We overlook the background awareness and are completely absorbed in the story.
And the thoughts. And that's when he was talking about suffering in that other chapter, that all that suffering is mind created through the identification with the thoughts.
So my son's getting married next weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And I've been separated from my wife for 3 years and 2 months now.
Who's counting?
I didn't mention weeks and days. And so, you know, the divorce is, you know, it's still being litigated and so forth. So anyways, the wedding is coming up real soon, of course. And a lot of the family will be from her side of the family that are coming. And so I'm expecting judgment, condemnation, all these sort of horrid things I'm really projecting into this event that's coming up. And I know with, you know, from what we're learning in here that there's no I to be judged, but still the feelings of fear, all that are very real. And it makes me feel like I'm really a real person who's suffering.
Yes.
Because I can't, the feelings are there and I get taken in, I get engulfed and swamped by them and start to believe them.
Right.
Sure.
But the feelings are not separate from the anticipatory thoughts. You have these thoughts anticipating all this judgment and criticism.
Yes.
Right. And so those thoughts are creating the feelings of suffering that you're feeling, of fear, of dread, of whatever the feelings are. So according to what we just heard tonight, it would be really important to just put that spotlight of awareness on those thoughts that are projecting into the next week, which is the future, and those thoughts that are anticipation. Those are thoughts of anticipation.
Yeah.
That may happen, they may not happen. But the point is, the only way you can know anything is in that moment. But right now, there is suffering because of where the mind is going.
Right.
And if we could see that in the moment, and instead of getting on the train with those thoughts, come back to the background, that's seeing it, right? The awareness is seeing it.
Yep. One of the dangers I'm afraid of is trying to go to this wedding and wedding reception as a perfectly equanimous Buddhist monk. In other words, I'm impervious to all this. You know, all these things are just clouds in the blue sky, and I'm the blue sky. And anyway, so there's a risk I can over intellectualize this and miss the real spontaneity and emotion of the moment because I'm pretending that I'm above it all. It's not affecting me.
That's right. You're going with an image of yourself. You've created now this image that you want to present.
Yeah.
But if you go without any image, if you just go open, totally open, then you will handle the moment as it arises, whatever that is.
Yeah.
If you've got an image, you're trapped. you're trapping yourself by coming in with that image.
Yep.
Because somebody's going to say something or do something possibly that's going to
Yeah.
put a pin in that image. And then you're going to be devastated. So look, I think it's good that you see that you see that you've already designed an image that you're going to go with.
Yeah.
See it and let it go. And just go as the open spaciousness that you are.
Well, that's right. And I want to focus also on my family members that are coming, to
Yeah.
support me. And just because I don't see them all that often. And this is really a joyful occasion.
It's sure.
And it doesn't have to be one where I'm filled with fear and afraid of judgment.
That's right.
Bill, I would suggest a lower level of reality approach by it, right? Instead of, why don't you go as a guest and not the father of the groom?
Yeah.
You're just here, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Occasionally, you'll have to take a picture with this young guy and his bride, but you're just there, as if you had a little bit of dementia going on.
Yeah.
Well, but what you said before is there are people that you haven't seen that you want to connect with. And that's what's important.
We could do that as a guest.
Yes, but not to have any image at all. Can I just go open? Just because that's what your true nature is. Just openness, spacious openness. And be there for the other people.
Yeah.
Remember, just a space for the others to happen in.
Interesting. I'll report back to you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Or maybe I could have you on speed dial from the actual wedding.
Better yet,
Okay.
Zoom.
Yeah.
All the things you have in your mind too, the anticipation of it being judged. Everyone that is going now does want it to be nice for your son. So if you can just keep yourself in the present and not be in the past and not be in the future and just be total awareness in the moment, I think that you'll feel better inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bernadette.
You're welcome.
What is the name of that book by John Wheeler?
Oh, yes, Bill.
Hold it up.
Right here, right now.
Thank you. That is the clearest perception of non-duality that I have heard. And to a certain extent, my inability to understand is my own. It has nothing to do with non-duality. Because I have what I think of as, whether it's true or not, a natural resistance to anything new. Because I think there's a part of me that doesn't want his cage rattled. And yet, the most mind-opening experiences I've ever had became a product of cage rattling. And it seems I have to relearn that and relearn it in order to come to something new, whether it's a situation or whatever, come to something new without the anxieties.
Yeah.
And one of you really put your finger on it to say, it's like words are a problem. Words are problematic because when you say, I project into the future, project doesn't mean anything. What I'm doing is I am imagining myself in some future situation and then imagining how I will feel when the things will happen that I imagine will happen.
Yes.
Yes.
And you're a complete divorce from reality.
Right.
But I really appreciate the way Wheeler expresses himself
Yes.
with such clarity.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to say even I could get that without demanding to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
And I've had that experience before, and each time it surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I never had it before.
Mm-hmm.
So the mind tends to revert back to that position behind the wall, that very well defended place.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, I'm just giving you my reactions.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Well, I think that's part of Wheeler's great gift is that he says very powerful things with the least number of words.
Mm.
It's clear, it's clean, it's
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he keeps focusing on the two main points over and over again. And I think the repetition is necessary because it's a novel idea and you have to hear it more than
Oh,
once.
yes, that's for sure.
Right. It's such a radical change from how we generally go through our day.
But you can hear it from a number of different directions. But John Wheeler he's really snockered it.
Yeah.
He really has. He's pinned it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that.
There's one sentence of John's that I think is so powerful. He says, have you ever been an I apart from the presence awareness that you are? Have you ever been an I, a me, apart from the presence awareness that you are?
No.
That's right. No.
Yeah. Wow. I can remember years ago, I don't know what the context of the conversation was that I had with my mother. This was at a time that she was in her 70s. And she mentioned that there was something in her that is still the same as it was when she was 17 years old. And it has not changed over the years, which I never fully understood that until now. And I'm not sure she did either, but she knew what she was talking about. She knew her experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's your experience as well.
It is.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Bill, just I wanted to read this section again. See all suffering, doubts, questions, problems, issues, imagined attainments, and losses and difficult moments at weddings as movements in the mind. They are all thought generated. Apart from thoughts, those things have no existence whatsoever. And then he says, you have to nail this insight completely.
Yes.
Don't move from this until it is absolutely clear. So that's, he's saying you've got to really see these things just with such a clarity. There is nothing wrong with the body, mind, world, or other people at any time. Fighting with those things is completely futile. All problems are the mind's labels, judgments, and interpretations. We must see that all problems are sustained and created by the mind, which is fabricating them. That's one aspect that you have to nail down, to just see that it's all thought generated. And then the second thing you've got to nail is believing the thoughts to be true is where the real bondage arises. Because even if thoughts occur and you don't believe them, they have no power. But first you need to see that what you're dealing with are the arising of thoughts, pure and simple.
It's something that I've found in almost every book that I've read on Wheeler, is that it's like a mantra, it runs all through his book. Who am I and what am I? And that's the starting point. None of this non-duality stuff makes any sense until you get that point really clear. Because until you get that point really clear, all the other stuff that you're reading, you're trying to rationalize, you're trying to make sense out of it. That's what I was doing for a hell of a long time, until I realized, wait a minute, when a thought pops up, where does it come from? And who's the author?
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the psychological thinking, not the others, the psychological thinking is the suffering comes when I'm thinking about it, when I get when I'm with the awareness that I'm thinking and the suffering is arising, it goes away because I'm generating it,
Yeah.
And I'm driving a car. How the hell can I be, in some situation where when I was married, I was having a vicious argument with my wife. I'm driving a car. And sometimes I really do a number on myself. And just the realization of what he's saying, that it's based on thought. The feelings come from thought. You don't have a feeling until you have a thought.
Right.
Or you have a in the moment feeling, an experience, but most of the times in the moment, you don't have the feelings. It's after you have the experience, now you start thinking about it.
That's right.
So anyhow, that great. Wheeler is, I agree with you, Bill. Wheeler is as clear as you can get.
The issue seems to be, at least for me, is that these feelings and thoughts, they are so powerful and they create physiological responses.
That's right.
I sweat, my face gets red, my heart beats fast. It feels so real.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's hard then to say, well, Bill, this is just a feeling, go with it, let it go. It doesn't mean anything. It'll probably be replaced by another feeling if you just wait 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But that leads me to start to identify with it because the feelings are so intense and they keep recurring.
Right.
That's right.
Whether it's feelings of shame or feelings of whatever, they keep coming back. They don't ever seem to really go away. But Wheeler did say, with time, they sort of go away.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's aware of those feelings?
Well, that's a good point. It's awareness itself.
But this is one of the reasons that I could never accept the idea that thought or thinking is some kind of an enemy. Because I'm looking back now a lot of years. In the Air Force, my job was to fly a jet fighter. And there were periods of time during training that I went through a lot of fear. And one of my instructors, I forget the exact words he used. We were walking out to the airplane, and he simply said, "All you're doing right now is walking. Does that scare you?" And I said, "No." He said, "Okay, if you are scared, it's because you are imagining something is going to happen that probably won't happen, but you take yourself there and you make it happen, and those you create those feelings because of that dynamic."
Yeah.
That when you climb into the cockpit, tell yourself you're not going to be scared until you're turning onto the runway. When you turn onto the runway, tell yourself you're not going to be scared until you're rolling down that runway. And when you're rolling down the runway, tell yourself you're not going to be scared until you lift off. And so on.
Uh-huh.
And it became a mental habit to the point that for the last few years I was flying, I can only remember one instant when I experienced fear at the level of stark terror.
Ah,
And it would have scared anybody. But it is amazing, this business of projecting into the future, thus creating anxieties about the future
Sure.
that burn up the energies I need to go into that future.
correct.
Right.
Projecting into the past and projecting into situations that are full of regret, anger, resentment, that
Right.
again burn up the energies I need to be here now.
Mhm.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Just put off being scared.
Yeah. And Bill, if you believe in the thoughts, if you take them as true, so to speak, then yeah, you'll create panic in your organism.
You won't get out of bed in the morning
Yeah.
and venture forth.
Mhm.
And the other thing too is just thinking about it as you're thinking about something and projecting either backwards or forwards, whichever way. Yeah, I've had situations just like you, Bill, where you really use up a lot of energy. And what I find out is that in the moment, the only thing that I have that I'm doing all of this, once I become aware that I'm doing it, sometimes I've used so much energy that I really have to lay down.
Mhm.
That it prevents me from seeing what's in front of me, prevents me from seeing what is. You know, I'm so worried about what tomorrow is. Meanwhile, I got to watch where I'm walking, or I'm liable to walk off a cliff.
Mhm.
And it's just incredible how just a simple thing like that of seeing how thoughts can really dominate your whole being. It's incredible. And it's, you know, it's like a movie screen. There's no substance to it. It's just an image.
Right. That's right.
But thinking is a capability
Yes.
that in the best of circumstances, I am managing. I can draw pictures.
Sure.
Yes.
I
Yes.
manage that art. It's the same thing with thinking.
Yes.
I
It's,
can take responsibility for managing my thoughts.
if there is thinking without a thinker, then that is absolutely fine. The problem is that the thinker believes that he or she is the thought, and that just ain't so.
There's another thing, aspect to that thinking, which I've come to realize, and that is that all of my thoughts are conditioned.
Mhm.
Now, that's not to say they're all bad. There are thoughts that come up that are practical. They don't have the psychological aspect to it.
Right.
But so, in a sense, I come up with a thought. I have to be a little bit suspicious of it when it's psychological, because I may not have been seeing the situation as it were. I was seeing it through conditioned eyes. I
Mhm.
wasn't seeing it as it was. I wasn't hearing it as it was. And that gives me pause at times. If I can bring that awareness with me when I'm engaged in that. So that, to me, that was really a powerful thing to see, that the vulnerability of faults and the outcome of what can come from them.
Right.
So anyhow,
Okay. Well, look, thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much.
And let's meet next week and continue our exploration.
great.
Thank you.
A good week.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you.
Buonasera a tutti.
Bye-bye.
Buonasera.
Buonasera.